And welcome to the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast, where this time it's a bit different to normal. I'm joined by two people. What I've done is I was a guest on the Selling podcast with Mike Williams and Scott Schloffman, and so I've invited them back lock, stock and barrel. So Mike, Scott, hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, thanks for having us.
I thought I needed to. I thought I owed you because I pretty much, was nicely invited to yours and ended up being rude and insulting you and saying what I did didn't work. And I thought, fair's fair. I'll host you back at mine. My mother brought me up well.
No, we were thrilled to have you because we were having a discussion about our vision of where sales is going. And we connected on LinkedIn and you offered your expertise. And I thought it was a really good discussion that we had. So I'm looking forward to the follow-up.
Yeah, and it's very much linked to the stuff we were talking. So I didn't even give you all the good stuff because I wanted you to come on and use it here. No, but guys, if you could just briefly introduce yourselves so the listeners have an idea of who you are, and then we'll start having a play with PQ. And I'm joking apart, I'd love your ideas on how we can really make that work.
Awesome, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Scott Schloffman, co-host of the Selling Podcast with Mike. We've just absolutely loved the podcast. It's been a whole lot of fun. Mike was actually my first manager way back in the day. And that was
not way back. It was only last week.
That was when Mike was 70. And so things have just been going swimmingly since. No, but Mike was actually the one who originally, he and another gentleman gave me my first break into medical sales and corrupted me. And so I left to a different manager and learned everything I needed to learn.
And unlearned everything I tried to teach him.
No, Mike's been a dear friend for many, many years. And it's been a whole lot of fun. My expertise, I've done everything from selling a product to selling a philosophy with medical device. I've sold internationally. It's been a fun roller coaster ride of just different learning events. And now I'm in the financial industry and selling in the financial industry and absolutely loving it. Just in love with sales. Brilliant.
Thanks, Scott. And Mike?
Yeah, I'm Mike Williams, and I've been in training for as long as I can remember. Actually, when Scott first joined our company, I remember talking to the VP and asking him if I can't hire him, can I at least adopt him? Because I saw something in Scott that I really admired and really liked. So we've had a
unfortunately,
long relationship.
Your wife didn't see the same thing. And she said, no, absolutely no adoption.
That's who I talked to, the boss, we've had a really good run. And we started the Selling Podcast as an idea to kind of get to know different people and different philosophies, and really gives us a chance to reach out and talk to people like you, Fred, that we never would have had an opportunity to talk to before, and then share our thoughts, our process, and see what everybody else is doing, and then talk a little bit about the differences, the similarities, and how we can then better utilize that to get better at our craft at sales.
Yeah, and look, that's why, joking apart, I reached out because I love the stuff you were talking about and trying to figure what the kind of the new model of sales might look like, what we're going to do. I parachuted in through a few ideas around and then wandered off, leaving you with like what's the latest? So what, in a nutshell, what are we saying about kind of where we feel sales is at and going at the moment?
So Mike and I kind of stumbled on this. When we first started the Selling Podcast, we were giving a lot of tips and tricks for a traditional model, which are still effective. We just started talking about it and developed into this, hey, well, where are we? Why aren't some of the things working that we've done in the past? And why are these new things working? And we just kind of evolved to realize that as buyers know what they're looking for. They typically know exactly what they want. They know the features and benefits. They have that idea. And so we need to adapt ourselves as sellers to be able to present in that type of environment. So that's kind of where we started and how we adapted. And Mike, what am I missing?
Well, I think you pretty well nailed it. As you look at it, the internet has given us a lot of things, good and bad, right? But it's given everybody the ability to do more research and find more information. But then if you think about it, it really kind of depends on the kind of sales you're involved with. if you're an enterprise sale and you're calling a customer to sell your solution, there's a pretty good chance the customers have been doing research and they're finding something that is applicable in their field. But what we have to keep in mind is they don't know what they don't know. And so that's our opportunity then to kind of highlight what we can do for them.
Which is exactly then, Fred, where you came in to talk about partnering skills, and you jumped in on LinkedIn and said, hey, you're kind of fumbling around. Let me help you out of it and kind of put in some pieces of what is missing. And so we greatly appreciate you reaching out, because it really helped us as we start cultivating and shaping exactly what we're looking for. What you have to offer has been great for our listeners and for us.
See, we don't need AI to change people's words. You just changed what I said there. I didn't say that. No, I said I really liked it, and here is something which I think fits in with it and kind of helps with the ethos, the mindset of salespeople to become more collaborative, because that's pretty much where we were going. I mean, you guys are using slightly different language, but it was the same thing. And what I'll do is, I don't want to spoil your episodes. I'll put a link to people to listen to those. And what for me was really interesting is how you were getting there. A lot of value in your discussions in the backwards and forwards. And so, we are on the same page. And partnering skills, PQ, partner intelligence, will help a modern salesperson, both. And so, I'm really interested in your ideas. And so what we'll do is we'll go through each of the elements, and I'll just ask you to share, how do you think a salesperson can start to use this thinking and become more effective in what they do? And so let's start with trust, ability to trust. It always makes sense for me to start there. What can a salesperson do to build trust, would you say?
See, I think the question is the opposite. I think it's, what can a salesperson do to lose trust?
Okay.
I was really against this for quite some time, and then through several experiences realized that we are born with trust, and too many times we lose trust. So the HPWP group, High Performance Workplace, they do a presentation, and it's all about trust and how we try to teach each other to lose trust or not to have trust. For example, we tell our kids, hey, don't walk in the middle of the street, stranger danger, don't do certain things. And so we're teaching them to lose a little bit of trust or be a little bit more skeptical. So it's my belief that we all have trust to begin with, and all of us range differently on the trust scale. But as a salesperson, we lose trust or lose credibility. And that's when we really start hurting ourselves. And it begins right from the minute that we're introducing ourselves to an individual.
Wow. Scott and I work off a basic premise that people are generally good. I mean, nobody wakes up in the morning and tries to figure out who's trying to ruin my day. Because nobody's really planning on that. So if you go at it from our perspective of people are generally good, play on that, utilize that in your conversations, and don't assume the negative in people.
That's so interesting. No, I mean, I've interviewed quite a few people around this now, and nobody spun it like that, which of course is a great sales skill in itself, is to give people different perspectives, isn't it?
That's why Mike's brilliant.
But that's really cool. People are generally good. Yeah. And you're right, because salespeople distrust buyers, don't they? Oh, they're there, they're trying to trip me up, they're trying to make my life hard, they won't give me this information so I can't do my job.
Or sell me something I don't need.
Why are they talking to you? They want some help.
Yeah. And that's typically what we've seen is our customers have been trained by really bad sales representatives trying to talk them into things, trying to sell features that they don't need or aren't interested in. And Scott and I look at it a little bit different. Let's have a conversation. Let's figure out how we can best, was it Larry Long Jr.? Is that who it was? Scott talked about sales reps really being matchmakers. And that's our goal. That's our job. We want to uncover what you can do and how our solutions might fit into what you're doing.
Wow. No, love it. Love it. Oh, we're off on a flyer. But this naturally takes into the second one then, because what you're talking about is win-win focus. So let's work out how we can both do well here. So, again, over to you guys. What do we actually do? So it's okay. We're going to not lose trust. We're going to do that by win-win focus. How can we bring that into play?
I think it's harder virtually because there's a lot of things. We know that 10% of communication is verbal, right?
Mhm.
And the rest of it's the speed, the intonation, the eye contact, all those things. And that's really difficult to master when you're doing it virtually. And so I think it really becomes more relevant to assume the positive in people, not waste their time, bring a valuable message to them, and demonstrate that you are willing to help them. And Gary Vaynerchuk also mentions provide free content, provide something free, provide help to your consumer, to your customer, and then offer your solution on top of that. Be a resource to them. And Scott and I talk a lot about putting yourself in a position where you can provide something to the customer and then sell something to the customer.
Yeah, Mike, if I could back it up just one quick step, I would suggest each seller needs to know their core competency.
Mhm.
If you don't know your core competency as a seller, then you can never create the win-win. You need to know what you are so good at and nobody else can do. And once you have that established, then you can go into your account and say, listen, what are you looking for? And they might say, you know what, I'm looking for something that's blue. And your core competency might just be green. And so you need to say, listen, for a win-win here is me backing away and me introducing somebody who can provide you something that's blue, because I don't have it. All I have, and I'm really good at green. I have some shades of blue, but what you're looking for is blue and I just can't do it. So I'm going to introduce you. And that's, not being afraid to walk away from a sale helps create that win-win.
Rather than go, well, if you look closely enough, or if you move your head and fast and check your eyes, it's kind of green.
You
Yeah?
squint really hard, yeah.
But I mean, just to use the analogy, that's kind of what some people do. They just say no, but I know somebody who's got the best green, absolutely the best. That builds that trust, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, it builds trust because now you're a resource to your customer, and they'll look at you as being someone that isn't trying to just sell. I can't remember who it was. Somebody we were just talking to. He used the term commission breath, and it made me laugh because I thought,
oh, that was also Larry Long.
Was it Larry Long?
It was Larry
Right.
Long used commission breath.
He said commission breath, and I thought that's perfect. People have a built-in BS.
Sorry, it was James Muir.
It was James Muir. That's who I was going to say. I didn't think it was Larry. So James uses this term of commission breath. And if you think about it, people have a built-in BS meter, right? You can tell when somebody's trying to shine you, or they're pitching something they're not butt into. If you can get past that by providing them a solution that's outside your services, outside your goods and competency, do you think they're going to ever come back to you and say, "No, we don't trust you. We don't believe you"? It's a great way for establishing that kind of trust.
When especially when they're looking for something else, like let's keep on the color analogy. If they're saying, "Hey, I need something that's red," I know Mike told me that he didn't have blue, but he had green, and led me into this perfect scenario. Well, I'm looking for red. I'm going to go back to Mike because Mike's going to point me in the right direction. So now everything's filtered to Mike because he is the person who is my resource. And when you talk about a win-win, there couldn't be anything better than that of, hey, they're coming to me because I know now when they need green, I'm ready to go, and I'll provide them all the information. But with that, and we'll get into this a little bit later, it's understanding the marketplace. You have to have this broad understanding and be a resource to them. And the challenge is for new sales reps, that's extremely difficult.
It's difficult because of the mindset but that's not my stuff, or because understanding the marketplace is so complex.
Typically the marketplace.
Right.
Typically the marketplace. So somebody can typically train themselves to think, hey, it's not my stuff. Let's figure out what's the best for the customer. It's understanding the complex marketplace. That's typically the difficult part. That's why you have selling teams and a mentor. And Mike, go ahead.
He's desperate to come in. So.
I think it's very difficult for sales reps in general because they've got pressure on them to meet a quota, right? Or here's the number, you've got to hit the quota. So all the time I'm thinking I've got to be selling my stuff.
Yeah.
But I think you need to really stop and step back and change your perspective. what is it the customer needs? If I can't offer it, I can't force my stuff onto them. And even worse than that, and this might depend on the industry you're in, is dismissing the customer as, okay, I'm on to the next one and I'm not going to worry about you. If you're calling on the same customer frequently, then being able to provide a resource, even if it's not your stuff, and you can get out of the mindset that I've got to sell to meet my number, recognize that this is a long-term play. Being a good resource to any customer will always, and you've experienced this, it will come back and benefit you if you're looking after them first.
Yeah. Funny enough, I had that conversation this morning about the longer term view, which we seem to be losing faster and faster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and we know it's again because of quotas and because of sort of end of month targets, all that kind of stuff. And it's what frustrates me is that we sort of see people, we see sales organizations saying, yeah, we're going to do this longer term focus. We're going to look at this stuff for 28 days. And then on the last 2 days, it's like, no, tell you what, sell that stuff. Go out, short term, transactional. And it's really tough one for salespeople. It's very confusing, I think, but hey.
But on that win-win, it provides an opportunity for a very frank conversation. When we're dealing with a very intelligent buyer, a buyer who knows what they're looking for, and probably more than likely what we also have, we're dealing with a very intelligent buyer, so we can have a super frank conversation. Just, hey, I'm not looking to waste your time. You know what I do. I know what you do. What do you, why did you accept this meeting? Or if you're reaching out, what do we have, or what are we missing that you're not accepting our offer?
So carrying on with our colours, I like the colours. It's nice and simple. Going on with our colours, the guy's saying, yeah, I want green, I want green. What if green isn't right for them? How does a salesperson say, you're telling me that, but I do not think that's correct? How can they go about doing that? Because to a degree, I mean, I'm just going in the elements of PQ. We're talking about a lot of this is to do with self-disclosure and feedback, and it's to give the information. I can't do that, or giving the feedback saying, no, you're kind of wrong, Mr. Customer. Well, that's a toughie as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's kind of the premise, I think, of different sales methodologies to point out and be bold. I mean, be honest with them and say, that's interesting. However, here's what I've seen in the industry, and you might want to consider that, because pulling in, and Scott likes to use the third party. Here's what I have seen, and this is what they're saying. This is what I'm hearing out there, and kind of pull the third party in. It adds to your credibility. If you actually do know what's going on in the industry, that's always a plus. And if you can have insight, and it's like the three of us discussing, we all have different perspectives. As a sales representative, and you're telling me you want green, but I know red would be a really good fit because I've seen it somewhere else in the industry. I can provide that insight and maybe direct the customer, because like I said before, they don't know what they don't know. And your job is to fill that gap.
It becomes even more complex when one person in the buying decision says, yes, you have the solution, and the other person or multiple people are, that's not exactly what we're looking for. So when there's disharmony in a buying group and it's a more complex sale, that's when you need to delicately find a champion who's going to say, no, this person has what we're looking for. That's a really fine balance to do. And that takes somebody who's really skilled and patient to be able to have the champion speak up and not upset everybody else.
Lots going on there. So it's understanding buying groups. It's understanding who's the champion. It's going back to what you said about understanding the market and what's going on and what they need to, because you can't just say, oh no, you need blue. Why? Because I've got blue. But it's because that is genuinely what's going on. It's having the interpersonal skills to be able to do this. Wow, sales is easy, isn't it?
Fred,
easy. Super simple stuff.
Piece of cake.
Everybody can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And at the same time, let me put in another element of PQ that we need, which is that of interdependence. Now, salespeople, we know independent, off we go, do your own thing. Well, we know that's not necessarily the best way, but interdependence, for me, that's about giving up control. at some stage, the customer's going to have to do their stuff, and the different people in that decision-making unit, in the buying committee. I've got to have some trust and dependence on my own people as well. So I'm trying to do all this stuff, but a lot of it's out of my hands. Wow.
Yeah,
another element that we've got to deal with.
Scott and I just had a conversation about this a couple of days ago, and I said, have you ever ridden on the back of a motorcycle? And you're speeding down the road, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to control where the motorcycle goes. You're just along for the ride. And it's having that trust in the driver and confidence in the driver. And that's what we're trying to instill in customers. Sometimes the decisions we can't control. We can't close the deal. We can't sign the contract for them. But if we're along for the ride and we're telling them, watch this left turn, watch this left turn, and we're giving them direction from what we see in our perspective, because we have the ability to look around, see what else is going on where the driver's focused straight ahead, right? We can influence their decisions and hopefully guide them to a safe conclusion or the right conclusion for the company.
One thing that I love to encourage, if a seller has not had the chance to manage, mentor, or train somebody, they need that opportunity. They need that ride along experience where you go in with a rookie and you are there in front of a customer, and your job is to keep your mouth shut no matter what. And you start seeing great buying signals from the customer. All you want to do is as an experienced rep, or just you want to jump in and you want to save and you can create this deal. Your job is to sit there, mouth quiet, and take notes. And you watch all of these great buying signals start dissipating. And I think that's so beneficial, because as now a rep, you're able to understand, okay, I realize that I might have experience, but I'm still missing things. And that's when you go back to your team, and that's when you create even more interdependence amongst your team to be able to say, listen, for example, for me personally, I know there's a personality type, and I'm not going to disclose it here, but there's a personality type that I do not sell well to. It's just, it's never worked for me. And so I know with that specific buyer, I'm going to call somebody in 100% of the time, because I know personally I cannot do it. And
it's amazing that Scott and I can have such an open relationship.
This is why he needs you.
Exactly correct.
Yeah. No, but again, it's a lot of this. And this is why I like PQ so much, because it's about self-awareness. All of these things we can understand, we can build, and it helps us with all these very practical things we're talking about. But that's a great idea. Even you don't have to be the manager, do you? You could just be a sales company. It's come along with me, or listen to me, just coach me on this. So not only are we getting bang for our bucks in that you're helping somebody else out, so this is your learning, you're reflecting back on yourself and going, would I have already done that differently? I spotted it, but would I have spotted it when I'm in the hot seat?
Great challenge.
Great learning tip. Love that one.
Yeah, that's hard to do, because when you're in the moment, it's really easy to get caught up, because sales reps have this stuff that we've piled into everybody's heads, and we've got our product knowledge, and we've got all this stuff that we've learned, and our natural inclination is we want to belt it out and provide everything to you, right? We just want to, we call it the barf on the table. We want to throw everything up on you right now, rather than reserve it and ask questions about, what do you see? And then if I don't have an answer to that, but they've got something that somebody on my team has more expertise, being willing to step back and hand it over and just trust that your counterpart is going to do their job.
Yeah.
Well, the fear, Mike, there is it's commission splits. It's, well, if I bring you in, do I have to split my commission? What is that? It's taking money out of my pocket. Well, the reality is it's a team. You're usually put on a team to balance each other out. So yes, if you start that in your company, it might take a little while, but you'll see the reciprocity. It will come back to you many times over.
Is it just commission splits? If we just give everyone a basic and there was no bonus or anything like that, apart from the fact we probably would have a team, but would people still behave in the same way, do you think?
I do.
Yeah, they
would. And I'll tell you what, Scott probably disagrees. I think it's more than commission split. I think there's it's a power struggle. It's I can do this and I do it better than you. And I think that that's kind of human nature too, because sales representatives are typically very competitive.
Yeah.
So it's understanding your swim lane, knowing where you're swimming and knowing where your expertise is, in Scott's point, knowing what you can do and what the guy next to you does even better. And then this kind of goes back to, well, Jim Collins wrote about it. There's a lot of different people. They say, understand that you've got to have the right people in the right situation. You got to have the right people on your team, the right people on the bus, and then organize them in the right seats so that you can address the customer's need and keep your team focused on the customer and not on individuals within your team.
Yeah, I've always had this, when people talk about my account,
right?
It always makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's not your account, it's the customer, it's the company's. Actually, it's not even the companies anyway. They are themselves. They're real people. You know? So yeah, it's kind of that, what you're saying, I guess.
Yeah, it's not my account. We are the provider. We are the customer's vendor. It's their choice, not mine.
Yeah. Apart from we don't get it, then it's yours.
Very true. Very true.
No, the mindsets and things, which is why, you know, anything I think helping with mindset like this stuff to just help us be a bit clearer is so useful. And you know, that's again, you know, I love PQ. Of course, that's what wrote the book using it very, very strongly. But the next element, comfort with change. You know, salespeople, we've got to be comfortable with it. Again, love your thoughts on that.
Well, you talked a little bit about it. It's self-awareness first. You have to be comfortable with being brutally honest with yourself. Sorry, Scott, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, we're going the same route. Fred, that's how we got introduced, is because Mike and I were going down a certain path, which was good. And we realized that, hey, we might not have this 100%, which allowed us. I'm being, yeah, you're 100%. We were wrong.
100% haven't got this. Talk about changing words. We're good at this, aren't we?
Well, I mean, it goes back to exactly comfort with change, and just to admit that I'm wrong. You know, it's an absolute struggle still. But it's just understanding that you know, we need to adapt. Things are going differently. We need to make that change. It's still difficult, but I think for the most part, it's being comfortable with the consistency of change. Because I'm never comfortable with change. I'm just comfortable with being uncomfortable as I'm changing. And so, because change every time, it freaks me out. I get so worried, so paranoid. I get stressed. Mike knows this about me. And it's just, I become comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so it's not that change itself becomes easier. It's that my comfort level in the discomfort is easier.
And I think being uncomfortable is the beginning of fear, because we have a fear of the unknown. And fear leads to doubt, and doubt is the killer of all dreams. Because change is inevitable. Being comfortable with change, learn to be comfortable there.
Yeah, interesting. Again, I'm just interested in where you took this, because I try to ask the question as completely broadly as possible, and you both went, yeah, it's with yourself. Wasn't about customers, wasn't about the environment, wasn't anything else. It starts at home. We've got to do this, because ultimately we're selling change, aren't we? As salespeople, that's what we do. We're change agents. So we want to get good at ourselves, or not good at ourselves. I really like that. Comfortable with it, or understand it, or know how to deal with it, is what you're saying.
Know how to use it as a tool.
Yeah.
Because change from a customer's perspective, it's scary for them too, just as it's scary for you. So you're going to lead someone down that path. They're on the back of the motorcycle once they trust you to make this decision, and they're trusting that your solution is going to work. So you need to make sure that you can alleviate some of those fears, hold their hand, you know, tell them it's going to be okay, reassure them, but inevitably you have to let them go through that uncomfortable period.
What happens when you get it wrong? I was thinking this morning, there's a group that I sold to recently, spectacular group. I love them. Haven't done business with them for a couple of years. Had the opportunity to go back and do business with them. Sold them a pretty large portion, and unfortunately, it's sitting in their warehouse and has been sitting there for 6 months and will continue to sit there. So I had to go back to them and say, listen, I encourage you to create this change. And the change you agreed with, I agreed with. We both saw this as this next big thing, and it was a complete bust. And, you know, when that happens, it's going back to them consistently and saying, listen, I'm so sorry. I thought this was going to be good. It wasn't, you know, and there's nothing we can do to remedy it. It's just change it wasn't good for both of us at that time. And creating that partnering, you have to be able to recognize when change has failed and then make it better.
Yeah. And that's just taking us back to the self-disclosure and feedback. It's kind of going, hey, look, that's what's happened. Probably my bad, sort of thing. But, well, no, he didn't. It wasn't even probably. That's what I said. It was the right thing at the time. But what are we going to do about it? Basically, right. We've got to change again. It's kind of what you were saying. Yeah, look what happened last time you recommended change. Yeah, but we can't just sit here. You know, sitting here with status quo would be the worst possible thing anyway. So whatever we did, it can't be as bad, can it? So,
well, and the worst thing you can do as a sales rep is try to say, well, that's not, you misunderstood what I said. No, it's time to completely own it. You are the one that brought the change to them. It's your responsibility. Accept the responsibility.
Good call, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Either way, if they were desperate for it and it was the wrong thing, well, we're back to that other conversation of, well, I'm not sure that you are trying to do the correct thing here. It's great though, because it's what I've got. I'm going to say, yes, of course I am. It could have been, no, it's probably not right. So excellent. Oh, a lot of good thinking. And I'm just going to keep us moving on to, I say it's the last one only because I'm reading them in order. We've only got to do them one by one, but they're all, well, only because they're so linked, you know, these things are absolutely all play into each other. And I think we actually started at the beginning with this one anyway, which was the future orientation. We've talked about short-termism, but what other thoughts have you got on this future orientation, which is an important part of partnering skills and modern selling?
Scott, do you want to take that? You've got kind of the forward thinking. I'm old school. I'm stuck in my ways. Scott was trying to sell me our new methodology, and I'm like, okay, Scott, you take this one.
No, I mean, it goes back to Fred. I think, as you mentioned, everything that we've been discussing. I mean, it's understanding. When I'm trying to sell somebody, I want to get to know them so well that I'm invited to their birthday party. Like, that's my goal when I'm going in. I want to know a customer so well that they're saying, hey, you know, we're having, you know, pizza and wings, you know, come on over. Like, that's where I want to go in my head. Now, I might never get there, but I want to know that person so well that I can understand, okay, here's where the resistance is to change. Here's where we need to be going. I also want to bring in expertise from the marketplace that they might not have, because my job is to provide insights to them that they can't find on their own. That's insights in the industry, insights in my company. And I think that's where sales reps, we really get to shine, is when I'm able to say, hey, listen, you're looking for XYZ. I'm telling you, we have WXYZ, and it's coming out in 2 months. Instead of making my quota and making me a hero right now, I'm actually going to put you off because it's going to be better for you when that comes out in 2 months. And because it's really what you need. And the customers, they love that. So understanding, you know, when we talk about, you know, the future, what are they looking for? How does it work? It all comes down full circle to what you've been talking about, is just partnering with them, becoming so close to them that you know exactly what they need. And it's helping guide them in the direction. And it's just saying, hey, listen, I think this would be best for you and your organization. It's going to make you look like a hero. It's going to help your organization. And by the way, it's a core competency of me, what I provide. So let's do this.
I love it. Well, most of it. I'll come back to what I don't like about it in a minute. Because we've agreed on too much. It's not us. We can't agree on every single thing. We're just fun in that. But most of it I do.
You know, that's funny, Fred.
99%. I want to see what Mike's going to say. So see if I can shoot you both down at once.
Well, Mike and I actually had this conversation one time off air. We said, Mike, we're too similar. We really need to kind of have some contrasting. So one of our episodes, we actually planned in to disagree with each other. It was spectacular and failed miserably.
Because you couldn't disagree.
You have to be true to yourself.
I don't want to disagree on that one. I don't want to disagree on it either. Oh, there
I think you need to be true to yourself. And I think it's a real skill with sales representatives to be able to turn the situation around. And I go back to PQ, the self-awareness issue. If you understand your role in this, it's a decision that you're trying to help someone make, right? It's going to long-term, it'll benefit their company or your customer. The financial piece is the only one part of the equation. If you can take the time to turn it around and look at it from the perspective of your customer and abandon your thought process and your selfishness of saying, I need this commission check. If you can turn that around, then I think you go a long ways towards driving that relationship that you're looking to develop long-term.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm sure there's people who are screaming though to say, I have a quota and it's end of the month. I have to have it. And just the quick answer to that is some of the greatest salespeople that we've spoken to, they have such a robust pipeline that they're able to diversify and spread things out. So if your close is a year, well, they're going to have a super robust pipeline. And the challenge is you just have to work more. And so you work more, work longer, smarter. You maybe instead of talking about a lot of the fluff in a conversation, you might have to narrow it down a little bit. Get the personal piece, have that, but then have the business piece and make it super succinct using an agenda. And then once you are able to do that, you're able to create this robust pipeline where then you can pick and choose. Mike and I constantly argue. I say it's a sprint. Mike continually insists on it's a marathon, and he is wrong about that. It is an absolute sprint in sales. Mike's point, though, is very well understood and falls on deaf ears on me. The reality is it is a marathon with sprints in between. So having your robust pipeline, you'll be able to spread it out. So you're sprinting with certain people, but for the majority, you're running the marathon, you're pacing yourself.
Is that fair enough, Mike? I better give you the comeback on
he's
that.
Still wrong. No, he's still wrong.
Let him actually say what he's wrong before he's wrong.
Scott and I have had this conversation ad infinitum. I'm looking, if I'm hiring a sales representative, I want to hire the plow horse, not the show pony. And the reason I want the plow horse is because 5 years from now, I want them to be able to call on the same customer that they were calling on and provide a solution. I don't want them to have just left them in behind, left them in the dust. And that's kind of the chicken and egg theory with sales. Do you want the hunter? Do you want the farmer? Can't you have both? Can't you have a farmer that hunts on the side?
Well, but if you're not, to Fred's book, if you're not partnering, then there's no long-term conversation. If you're not using the PQ skills, then you're not going to stay in. You're not going to be the expert. And if you're not the expert, then it's realistically a one and done. You're in there, flash in the pan, not the expert, then you're moving out.
Love it.
Marathon.
So you only said that so I don't go back and pick up that
sprint.
No. It's the 400 meters, isn't it? Which is a really long sprint and is one of the hardest events in athletics because of that. Yeah, you have to sprint it to win it, but it's just on that edge of where you can't. But I'll take the bit I was going to get back on.
We'll see, Fred. You only see our shoulders up. If you could see our shoulders down, you realize that we actually have no clue what running is all about. Say me, those days are long gone. No, the bit that I was going to just challenge you a little bit on, and actually I might have been hearing it slightly different, is where you said something like, I want to know someone so well, I invited to their birthday. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it came across on camera, but when you said that, I went, oh no.
because I literally yesterday was telling a group that you do not need to know somebody so well that they invite you to their birthday. They were my
That's really
exact
funny.
words.
Okay.
So basically, I should just cut it out. But rather than do that, I'll explain what I meant, because I don't want to cut it out, because you said far too quickly afterwards a whole load of really good stuff, which was because then you're able in a better position to share insights, to talk about what you know about the industry, your company, their company, etc. Which again, I'm 100% with. And it's just that I don't think the personal relationship needs to be that good. I think the business one does, which is why I think, birthday, wedding, whatever, go out for a bit, it's irrelevant for me.
Mhm.
But it's, are we, when we're in the office, comfortable enough that, yes, we are close enough and, we're, I don't say intimate enough, maybe might be the word, that when I'm giving those insights and they're things that you might not want to hear, actually, they're not going to go on deaf ears. You're not going to argue because you don't like me. So
Yeah. So
no, I guess I'm agreeing 99%.
Well,
It was just those words you used. I thought, oh God, I hope these guys don't listen to this.
that is so funny. No, and it's a really good point. It's a really good point. One thing that I keep going back to when I look at, I'll talk about managing, and then I'll come back to selling. So when managing, I had a boss who once told me, as I was a young manager, he said, no, Mike, this was not you. This was not you. I promise. This was when I first got in as a manager. They said, don't get to know, or don't become good friends with your employees. And I cringed, and I was like, that doesn't seem right. And they said, no, it's really bad, because you're gonna have to fire him one day. Well, then I went scouring books to try to find, is this right and is this wrong? And I have come to the conclusion that is dead wrong.
Sure.
That, be friends with the people that you're managing. And I think the same thing goes with the people you're selling. Be friends with the people that you're selling. It's just not all business. People like to do business with people they enjoy being around. And so yes, Fred, you're right. I don't need to be invited to their birthday party. You're spot on. I do need to have some friendly relationship where I can walk in and I can say, hey, how are the dogs doing? How's the cat? What are the kids up to these days?
Yeah, no, the point I was making to these guys is, if that is your only focus, you are missing it, the whole point, big time. What have you come out of this meeting? What insights did you share? Nothing. But I know his dog's name's Fido. Yeah. What did you challenge them on, that their business might be doing something wrong? I don't know, but his birthday's in December. I'm like, come on. So yeah, if those come as a result of a good business relationship, great. But if your only objective is to try to be someone's best friend forever, you're not a professional seller. You're just I don't know what you are really. You're kind of a mate.
You're a conversationalist, and that's not a seller.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, that's what I'm picking up on there. But then when you described straight away after all the good things that you would do with that depth of relationship, so like, probably shouldn't even challenge it. But
no, I like it.
My group was listening to it very carefully and picked that bit out, so I just needed to.
No, which is great. And just so you know, none of my customers have ever invited to me to their birthday parties, and I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for that invitation.
We will send this directly to them.
Oh, yes. Yes, I will.
Oh, brilliant. Guys, that is so useful. There's a lot of good stuff we've covered there. And, we could go on and on, I suspect, on this, but I've got to respect your time. Anything else you want to add into that, though, about sort of partnering, about selling in general, that you think would be useful before we start to do the sign-offs?
Well, there's so much.
Yeah.
It's Mike and I were talking, and in our constant debate, is sales an art or a science? And it is an art, 100%. Mike's all about it's a science. And once again, he's wrong and I'm right. But more than likely, it is a strong combination of both of them. And it's fun because we go back and forth on it. There's so much to it. And it all comes back to partnering.
Absolutely.
It does for me. Look,
I obviously have a bad internet connection. My apologies.
So do you want to say it again? Because it was pretty key, that bit. So
no, and that my internet was fluttering. It all comes back to partnering. We need to partner not only with the people in our company, but as specifically with our customers. We need to know exactly what they're looking for, be that key resource to them. And if we have a robust pipeline, then we're able to, as we've been talking about sprint versus marathon, we're able to cue in the people when we need to be able to drive the revenue that is required.
Brilliant. Can't argue with that. Sorry. Mike, anything else you want to sort of round up on?
No, I think we're talking about such a complex environment. The sales rep's role is so multifaceted, and you've nailed it, I think, with your PQ, because a true partnership doesn't always mean it's going to be a win-win. Sometimes it's more 80% win for them and 20% for you. But understand that partnership and being able to take that perspective long-term is going to benefit both of you, because let's face it, nobody really succeeds on their own. It requires other individuals. And Fred, you're the master of understanding how those partnerships fit together and work the best, and what it takes for you to be the self-awareness and the things that are about you that you need to master and become a better partner, or put yourself in a position to be a better partner.
Brilliant. Thank you. So how do people get in touch with you? Because I suspect they want to line up to have a good argument with you about stuff.
All arguments
because
go
it's
to
good
Scott
fun,
Schlafman.
It's good fun. You take it in good humour, and it promotes good conversation. So, joking apart, where can people get in touch?
Yeah, so a couple main ways. First, you can email us directly. It's mike@thesellingpodcast.com or scott@thesellingpodcast.com. You can check us out at www.thesellingpodcast.com. We're also active on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Perfect. So you do the Selling Podcast, is that right?
Selling Podcast.com.
Now, guys, if you're listening to this, you're watching this, go and have a look, go and have a listen. It's there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of conversation like this, good fun, but real good, solid stuff and decent advice in there. So I'd thoroughly recommend it. And thank you so much for giving your time and coming over to my place and having a
It's been a pleasure.
It's fantastic. Thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been great, Fred. And look forward to another conversation down the road.
Yeah, pretty soon, eh?
All right. Thanks.